Hello, here we're going to finish out the project guided usage tutorial for VS Code. If you're on a Linux-based system, don't worry about this video being recorded on macOS. The rest of this video will be the same for both systems. Make sure you've saved changes to your launch.json file once it's finished. You'll have to configure a launch.json file like this at least once for every project or lab to use the visual debugger. But you should be able to copy your latest launch.json to the new assignment, only have to change the relevant information. At the top of the debugging menu, you can expand the drop-down list to select the name of a configuration from your launch.json file. Select the configuration that you just created. So you can see here, and again, if you're on a Linux-based system, your launch.json is going to look different from this. Don't worry, just pick the name here that matches in the drop-down. So here we're named capital D debug, that's fine. And then if we've made changes to tutorial.cpp after building, build again, and when we're ready, hit the green play button. So we haven't made any changes, but I will just recompile here to demonstrate, make debug, cool. And let's hit the green play button. This will automatically open the debug console, or if you're on macOS, you're gonna have to type in your password to allow this, very secure password, hit enter, and there you go. We don't see the output here because we're not in the terminal tab. So let's go ahead and click this, go to terminal, and we'll see found two unique numbers. That's not very helpful. So let's go ahead and set a breakpoint. Let's open tutorial.cpp and then click on line 30 just to the left of 30. So we'll go here, line 30, just to the left of 30. A red circle should appear just where we clicked, and it did. And this indicates that we've set a breakpoint on this line. If we run the visual debugger again with the breakpoint, we'll get a better idea of the debugger's features. In the editing window for tutorial.cpp, we can see the debugger's flow control with continue, step over, and step in/out functionality. So the continue button runs until the next breakpoint is reached or until the program crashes/finishes. Step over goes to the next line of code in the current function. Step in goes to the next line of code found by trying to step into whatever function is called. So for example, if we're on line 21, let's say we have a breakpoint there, and we click step in, that'll actually go inside the code of the sort function, so we can inspect that. Step out is the next line of code found after the current function returns. So let's say we're in that sort function and we want to go back to our code. Let's click step out, and it'll bring us right out to our own code. Then restart, we'll restart from the beginning of the program. We can demonstrate that. It restarted. And the stop button stops debugging and exits the visual debugger, like that. Let's go ahead and run this again to follow the tutorial. Then in the debugging menu on the left, we can see local and global variables, and we can also create and monitor watch statements. Watch statements are any expression that we want to try and evaluate using the local variables. Lastly, we can see the call stack. So let's say we want to see numbers I. We're using numbers I in this code, but we can't actually see it because it's not its own variable. So let's go ahead and make a watch statement. Click this plus, then numbers I, and there we go. We can see the numbers of I is -3. And then if we want to see, for example, inside this numbers container, we can only see the size right now, not super useful, but if we click this, we can actually see each individual element. If we continue through the program, we'll see that our algorithm counts unique items correctly, but it forgets to count the first item as unique when it exists in the input. We can fix the bug by changing line 27 as seen below. So basically what it's saying is that, well, I guess we can step through, right? So we have -3 here, so let's see. So I is 1. So we're on the second element of the vector. And we'll see that's 1. And let's go ahead and make this full screen just so we can see a little bit better. Okay, so we can see that we're on I equals 1. And we have this, the second element is -3 and the first element is 0. So that's actually going to skip this if statement. And if we click step over, that will be confirmed. It just skipped over the ++ unique count. So unique count is still 0, even though we have gone past, now we're past -3 completely. If we look at numbers I now, we're at 2. So we're not counting the first element of the vector. We can patch that with this code. So let's go ahead and change line 27 to match this. And we're going to use a ternary operator here. If you're not familiar with this, I don't believe it's taught in EX 280. Basically, it can be used to replace simple if statements. And it's equivalent to, in this case, having unique count as 1, but if numbers.size is equivalent to 0, then we're going to set unique count to 0. So basically what this is saying is that we're always going to start our unique count at 1 because we're not counting the first element of the array. But if we don't have any elements, then we definitely don't have any unique elements. Now we're going to get to submitting with VS Code. This is the last step of the tutorial. The only thing we have left to do is to include the project identifier somewhere in each source file. We usually just do it in a comment on the top of the file like this. So that's what I'm going to do for this tutorial. So something like project identifier, and then I'm going to copy it from the make file since we already set it earlier. Copy, and then paste. Great. We'll do that for the CPP, and then we also have an .h file like so. I need to do the comment too. And for this, I'll just show that you don't actually need the project identifier string, like the words project identifier. You only need the project identifier itself. Then we're going to go ahead and save. I'll do that with this file menu, but you should do it with the keyboard. Now, since we've added the project identifier to each source file, I'm going to go ahead and run make full submit. Okay, and as it says, the final submission is prepared. It's ready for grading. Under normal circumstances, you would submit this tarball to the appropriate autograder. However, there's no autograder for this tutorial. Congratulations, we're done. Before we finish, I'm just going to read this quick note. If you're ever having trouble using your visual debugger, make sure to check the following. Make sure that the fields in your launch.json file are configured appropriately, especially that the program field points to the debug executable, which you've built using the make debug command. If you're a WSL user, make sure you're running VS Code inside your WSL file system. The blue box in the bottom left corner of your VS Code window should read WSL, followed by your Linux distribution of choice. And there we go, we're all done. Congratulations on setting up VS Code, configuring it, doing this example, and now you should really be prepared to code some EX 281 projects. I wish you luck in the class, and I hope to see you soon.